Welcome to this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find us on our website, hollywoodmatrimony.com. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, and Hive.
Blue sky,
So many things to
shine
remember.
on me.
Okay.
Nothing but
Blue skies.
blue sky.
Okay, love that energy. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We have movies to talk about, movies galore.
Well, maybe a few.
Okay, a couple, but I think it's going to be fun. So
Yeah.
thanks for being
So
here.
you see, there's a theme going on here.
I brought out some of my Planet of the Apes
We
things.
have our matching shirts.
And it does say "Make America Ape Again." Make sure you read.
Yeah,
I got my Dr. Zayas pen. Dr. Zayas.
These
Dr.
fun
Zayas.
shirts were a few years back. The Alamo Draft House did a screening of the original movie, which you didn't get to end up going to. It sucked. So I had to take somebody else. So, but the shirts came with it. We had bought our tickets to go. Something happened. I don't know if you had a church thing or work thing or something happened. You couldn't go at the last minute. So I think Eddie went with me. I don't remember anyway.
Well,
so we got these shirts. Funny though is I'll wear this shirt sometimes to one of the senior classes I teach. Inevitably, I'll get somebody because they think it's one of the other shirts. And the lady the other day, I don't think I told you, she was like, "Oh, I can't believe you." I'm like, "Read the shirt." But I said, "Read the shirt." She goes, "I read." I said, "Read it again." And she was like, "Make it ape." She goes, "What does that even mean?" I said, "It's Planet of the Apes Day, lady." So
we need to be watching the Dr. Zayas show. Is that
yes, if you didn't know, there was a really fun YouTube show. I forgot the guy's name that plays, but it's Dr. Zayas basically interviewing celebrities like it's the 60s or 70s talk show.
That's awesome.
It's really funny. Anyway,
Dr. Zayas.
so obviously with the new Planet of the Apes movie out, we will be discussing Planet of the Apes. We're going to save it for the last, but you see, we have a Planet of the Apes problem, and this isn't even half the stuff. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I got a bunch of stuff. I got action figure. I have problems.
Yeah. So
but I threw Taylor in the cage properly. So
did you? How did you look? That's cool.
So he's in there throwing humans in a cage. That's what we do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get there, let's talk about a few other things. I wanted to formally talk about the new Anne Hathaway movie that I completely missed. Let's
dive in there, sister.
Get that out of the way. So this is the Amazon movie of last week.
All right, enough of that one. Moving on. No, I'm just kidding.
Anne Hathaway, The Idea of You. And I have to remember this lovely man's name, Nicholas Galitzine. You're going to see him because he's in that new show, too, that just started, the George and... what's it called? Hold on.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It just started. Mary and George, that new TV miniseries. That looks like woohoo.
I don't know what that is either.
Steamy and cray. It's, I think, loosely based on the true life story of King James I, and supposedly he also liked men in addition to women. And so this guy plays the son of Julianne Moore, and she's basically kind of pimping him out to get status within their society. So Countess of Buckingham, who uses her son for advantage in the court. So anyways, it's a new show that started. But before that, he's in this little movie with Anne Hathaway. Not a romantic comedy, more of like a romantic dramedy at this point. It's a drama. Anne Hathaway is a 40-something-year-old single mother who takes her daughter to Coachella. And she tries to find the bathroom, but ends up in this kid's trailer, not realizing that he's from one of these...
mom or the daughter?
Her, Anne Hathaway, the mom. Ends up in this guy's trailer to use the bathroom, not realizing that he's from the most famous boy band at the moment. So they spark a little conversation. He falls for her. She's like, "Oh, we can't. I could be your mother." And he's like, "But you're not."
Where's her daughter?
Her daughter does not know this is happening until much later, and that becomes part of the problem. No. This happens throughout a couple of weeks or months.
Okay.
So this sparks the debate of things. We get into stories of like modern day celebrities or whatever, where men are dating much younger women. It's not an issue. But in this, it talks about the idea of how older women dating younger men is still kind of socially unacceptable, which is kind of unfair.
I think the whole thing is stupid. I think if it's two adults, it doesn't matter what you're older. And I know it's creepy to say, but I think it's context. You know, like, yes, I know 18, 19-year-old people are adults legally, but at the same time, you've got to look at, I'm not saying I agree with an older person dating a younger person, but what I'm saying is, like, if you're going to say this is an adult, what legally or whatever, then you have to kind of put all the adult things. Like, I have a big problem with the fact that 18-year-olds, you're considered an adult, but you can't drink until you're 21.
Right.
So shouldn't 21 mean that you're an adult,
21, I think.
not 18?
Yeah.
And that whole, there's this kind of confusing area of relationship kind of situations too, because I'm not condoning or condemning either one. I think the confusion of what we classify as an adult causes issues. And then, as you're saying, suddenly you're adults, two adults can do whatever they want, but then you can be too much of an adult compared to somebody else.
Yeah, but in this movie, he's like 24 years old and she's 40. I mean, obviously he's an adult. He can make his own decisions.
But if he was 40 and she was 60, nobody would care.
Exactly.
That's why it makes no sense.
Well, and if it was reversed, like he was 40 and she was 20 something, they'd be like, hey, good for you.
That's what I'm saying. So, the whole balance makes no sense.
So it explores that idea. It also deals with the idea of sudden celebrity because people are hounding her and her kid. It also deals with the idea that society dictates who these people can be with. Like, remember a Captain America and that funny girl had to break up because people are like, she's too ugly for you.
Yeah.
She's hilarious, by the way. I love her. She's a great actress.
Apparently, they're still really close friends, but the society broke them up.
Yeah, and that's what happens in this
That's what happened to Ben and J-Lo the first time, too.
Yeah, so...
And look at them back together, looking grumpier than ever. They now look like a real married couple. They both look unhappy all the time.
Wow. So that's basically what this movie explores. It's really interesting. There are some twists and turns along the way. It's okay.
You know who this reminds me of? Priyanka Chopra and Jonas.
That's right. She's older than him.
Yeah, it's the same storyline.
But nobody cared because he's a famous
dude.
dude.
Everybody complained.
They
thought it, but it was more of he could do better.
Why?
And I'm like, she's beautiful.
She's a cute little lady.
You know.
Oh, whatever. They're happy.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Or we assume they're happy.
We assume they're happy. We don't know people's lives. We assume the hope for the best. The downside to this now is because I have seen every single Anne Hathaway thing. Anytime there's like a romance thing involved, I feel like I see some of the same things that she does.
Yeah.
Like at some point, I'm going to get her doing the big, loud Julia Roberts laugh. She's going to cry. She's going to do that little smile thing she does.
But that's every romance thing.
I know. So I'm sensing that now. And I think because I had just previously watched Devil Wears Prada again.
The problem is that you watch Anne Hathaway movies. Nobody should be watching Anne Hathaway movies.
So anyways, it was a cute little movie. I enjoyed it. So I would check it out. All right. Now
where can they check it out?
It's on Amazon. It's the Amazon original.
Oh, good.
Okay, I want you to tell me about this movie that I missed.
Because you're a dunderhead.
I'm a dummy.
So when they send me screening links for things, sometimes you only have a certain amount of time you can watch it. Instead of just watching it like I told her to, she was trying to cast it, do all these different things because she wanted to be lazy and watch it. And she burned through the 5 screenings. I watched it once. You had 4 screenings. And you burned through
4 tries.
You burned through 4 tries, and now she can't watch it. But the movie is Force of Nature, The Dry 2.
Is there a dry one?
There is, in fact, a dry one. It came out in 2020 with Eric Bana. We've seen it.
Yes.
It's a drama
detective
thriller, I guess. It's basically he's an agent, special agent, and solving different crimes. They're based on a series of books. I say series. I don't know how many books there are, but it's Jane Harper who wrote the book. So the first one was The Dry. The second one is, I think the book was called The Force of Nature. But this movie is basically reteaming him with the same director that did the last movie too, Robert Connolly.
Oh, there's several books.
Oh, good. So it's one of those that I kind of hope they keep making them because they're interesting little
or is it just
murder mystery kind of things. They're not super exciting. They're not action or anything like that. I will say I like this one better than the first one. The first one was, I don't know if you remember it very well, but it was very slow. I enjoyed it, but it was kind of hard to stick with it because it was so slow paced at times. This one, I think
it's a 3 set, so I wonder if they'll do the last one.
I think the setting of the last one too, which was kind of in a deserty, kind of mundane looking town area where
it was in the middle of nowhere town.
Yeah, this one the entire thing takes place in like a forest. and it's got a group of ladies that are going through. So basically, it's he's teamed up with another agent, and they're going in there. They're trying to find this corporate whistleblower, and there was like a group of women that were on like a retreat, and one of them disappears, who's the whistleblower of the company or whatever. So they get the ladies, and so now it becomes a matter of he's doing the investigation, but it's also kind of flashing back and it's showing what actually happened as you're going.
Oh, there's more.
So okay,
Sorry.
can you just focus? Stop reading this. You can look at that later. It's showing what the ladies are going through, and then flashes back to him having the discussion about what's going on, and then back so it's kind of back and forth, and it's got some twists and turns. So sometimes the stuff you're seeing may not be showing all of it, so it's not exactly what they're saying. And but I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not a super exciting film, but that's not what it's supposed to be.
Was it same tone as the first one, where it's kind of just chugging along?
It is. I felt this one had a little better pacing.
Okay.
But it's because the story and I think the hiking in the woods and all the different stuff they're doing, and a little more of there's more characters involved in it, so I think they're butting heads some, and it felt like more was happening even if there wasn't. But it's it's an Australian film, and it's just one of those things. Is
he Australian?
Yes, he is.
Ah.
So that's why
he is. He's from Melbourne. Huh. Where have I been?
Well, no, we had an entire discussion about that when we watched the first time movie back in 2020. But anyway, I enjoyed the film. Like I said, it is what it is. There's not a lot to talk about. I mean, he's really good in it. I think you get I
like him.
A little more depth to him. I don't remember in the first movie if it was kind of digging into some of his own personal stuff. I think it was. This one does some of that as well, good and bad, and but it's intriguing. It has twists and turns, and some of them are pretty easy to figure out. Oh, it's going to be that person, and they did this and whatever. But I think the setting and the kind of the rainforest looking area they're in just made it a little more compelling, a little more interesting. So if you like these kind of movies, and you don't have to see the first movie to watch this one, it's really only a sequel in. The same detective is doing this, so it's kind of like watching the Agatha Christie Murder on the Orient Express. Yeah, Poirot. It's just you don't need to see the previous one. You just need to
know he's a detective.
Yeah. So that's kind of this one. So anyway, A Force of Nature, the Dry 2 is in theaters now, as well as I believe on digital rental. So if you want to check it out, check it out. I don't think we get enough of Eric Bana in our life. And so if Eric Bana shows up, I like watching it because I like the guy.
I like him. And you know what my favorite Eric Bana thing is?
Chopper.
That no one else liked?
What?
The Hulk.
No, the Hulk's a lot of people like the Hulk.
The
movie does not hold up.
Yeah, but I liked him.
I enjoyed it when it came out. I loved the Hulk.
I think it took me a while to get into the groove
of
what's his name, but I think because we didn't get enough of his face in it until like
who are you talking about?
Subsequent movies.
Mark Ruffalo or
Mark
Edward
Ruffalo?
Norton? Edward Norton was way better than Mark Ruffalo, but they were butting heads, so they had to move. I was very upset Edward Norton got replaced. I think the problem with the old Hulk movie is the reason it doesn't hold up is Ang Lee went full in with a comic book tone, and I love the Hulk movie. I think it's great. I remember having an argument with somebody at work because they were like, I tell people all the time because it's such a stupid argument. They were like, that movie is so stupid. The Hulk could jump like 100 miles. I'm like, that's your problem? It's a 7-foot behemoth with whose pants don't disappear.
My problem is the Hulk pants.
And your problem is that he can jump. This discussion is over.
So funny.
Anyway, but yeah, if you've never seen the movie Chopper, it's a movie that kind of made him famous. You should watch it.
Wasn't he in another war movie?
He's been in a bunch of movies.
Oh, I like Time Traveler's Wife is good.
Oh, that movie's trash.
I liked it.
He was a bad guy in one of the Star Trek movies.
Black Hawk Down.
Yeah.
There was another one. Sorry.
If you haven't,
Lone Survivor.
Chopper is the movie to watch. That's a hard to watch movie, but it's really good. He plays I believe a Aryan or a biker or something. Yeah, it doesn't look like Eric Bana.
No.
Go pull up Chopper.
He looks like a crazy.
And look, it doesn't even look like the same person. That's him.
Yeah, it looks like a weird skinhead.
But I mean, open up the poster and look at him a little closer. It looks nothing like him.
Serving a jail sentence, he writes his bio. Yeah, it does not look like him at all. Wow.
It's a fantastic movie. I remember watching it, and then when the Hulk came out, which was kind of our first big foray into Eric Bana outside of Chopper, I didn't even realize the same actor for about a year. So anyway, check out The Force of Nature, The Dry 2. It's a decent little murder mystery kind of thing.
Okay. Next.
All right.
Now we're gonna move into something.
Another sequel.
Yep.
So back in, I believe this was also 2020. There was a year we got a lot of like screening links sent to
We got
us.
so
a
many
lot
good
of
things during the COVID.
No, it was actually 2021. I lied. One of my personal favorites, Scott Adkins, starred in a movie with Ryan Phillippe.
I feel like it's a man crush.
It's an action crush. That was basically shot to appear. It didn't actually do one shot, but it appeared the way they crafted it, did long shots to look like one continuous
shot for the whole movie.
But for an action film. And
because that had been done with that horror film.
Yeah, which that one was actually
that was really one shot. And dude, those people, they remember we saw that behind the scenes, and like somebody dies and suddenly have to run and scurry, and people are like quietly moving around, and
yeah,
it's crazy.
So the movie did well enough. The first one's it's just straight up action flick. There's not as much karate as I was hoping, but there's plenty of shootouts and fighting, gunfights and whatnot. So anyway, Scott Adkins has reteamed with James Nunn for One More Shot, which is a sequel. It's another one that's shot in the very same exact kind of tone. This time bringing in Michael Jai White, who's another martial arts badass that I enjoy, and Tom Berenger. Stupid me didn't pay attention initially that this was, I knew it was a sequel, but I thought it was going to be like The Dry, where it was the same agent doing something else. And about 20 minutes into it, I'm like, isn't that the guy they rescued in the last movie? And realized it was directly after that movie.
Okay, so the first
defense, I was working on Art Deadline at the same time, so I wasn't paying that close attention initially.
So in the first one, Scott Adkins and his team go in to take out this guy who's a terrorist because they need to take him to trial or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Well, suddenly they're ambushed at the black site that no one should know about. So from there, this movie picks up from there with that guy. He has
he picked up there. He picked him up at the airport where they had
landed, and now that guy, somebody else is ambushing, trying to get that guy again.
And what's clever about the movie is you don't need to see the other movie.
Not really,
because they kind of explain,
who he is.
We got this guy, and my entire team was wiped out, and we were betrayed, and whatever. So you can watch it and never know there was another movie, and you still understand what's happening.
Yeah, it's fine.
And even when they said that, it didn't connect with me. I'm just thinking, oh, this is another mission he's on, and I was drawing him out of my business.
And I'm like, but that's the same guy. But
when I looked at the guy, I was like,
that's the same guy, right?
The movie was at a dumb moment. Anyway, but I've been wanting to see this movie. I missed it when they came out digitally or whatever. But it's now on the Netflix, and it is in the top, or was at least one of the top 10 movies.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the new one?
I enjoyed it. I was gonna look at this lady. I know this is one of these people you really enjoy watching, so I was all in. But I feel like this.
You don't have to like it just because he liked it.
No, but I liked it. It was good, and it had decent action. I liked that. We got immediately. I feel like there's ambush.
Yeah, it doesn't wait. There's not a lot of downtime in this movie.
And I appreciate. I was looking for that camera angle. Like, is it really one shot or not? And I can see, and I'm thinking about these poor little camera guys because they're having to walk backwards downstairs. So someone's like doing this thing to them because they go from here to here, then back over here. So it is really interesting to see these films that they're trying to do in that view of it is one long shot. Like if I was here and I was looking and doing this whole thing. So I thought that was really interesting. And we did get a fight with them, which is what you were waiting on.
Yeah, I was. So, going in, I didn't know that Michael Jai White and Scott Adkins weren't on the same unit. Because again, going in the movie, I didn't know it was a direct sequel. I thought it was they were on a team together. Then you find out that it's not really a spoiler, but that Michael Jai White's not a good guy. So I'm like, okay, that means we're going to get a fight. And then Michael Jai White's barely in the movie for a long time. He has one scene, and we don't see him again until the very end. They get a fight. It's a decent fight. It's not the fight I was hoping for, but at least I got one.
You got it.
So that didn't upset me.
Because you were like, if there's nobody kicking somebody, I'd be mad.
Well,
okay.
I've interviewed Scott Adkins and Michael Jai White a few times, and I've had conversations with both of them about. Because inevitably, a lot of the movies I've interviewed them is after it's a movie that's not a hardcore martial arts flick. And I'm like,
dang it.
I told Scott Adkins one time when I was interviewing him, I think I've interviewed him like 3 times. And it was for this movie he did. It was not a martial arts flick. It was kind of a spy thriller. Good movie.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a single fight in that movie. And I talked to him and I'm like, it was a great movie. I said, I don't know what to ask you because you didn't kick nobody. And he started laughing.
Yeah.
So I said, I get it as an actor. You want to expand out and do different things. I said, but I want you to kick people in the face. So I said, whatever you do, whether it's a comedy, drama, romantic comedy, I said, kick someone in the face just once for me to make me happy. He laughed. He goes, I'll see what I can do. And sure enough, in this movie, he kicked somebody in the face.
He did.
This one is jam-packed with action. It does have, I think, a lot more fight scenes than the previous movie had.
I think so too.
But while I'm bummed about it, I think it fit the character. There wasn't a lot of the Scott Adkins fancy trick kicks that he does, but it's not really make a lot of sense for this character to do them. But there is plenty of the fighting and plenty of the showcasing of the stuff that's well executed, especially doing the one-shot type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to see Michael J. White whoop more ass, but at least he was there, and at least they fought each other. I'd be happy with what I got.
There you go. I did like it. I thought it was really good. Good action.
I would love to see them keep making more of these movies, even if it's not the continuing thing, because they take the guy and do different missions, and I think it would be cool. I think there's a lot there.
Because he's a Navy SEAL. It's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, so there's a lot of little missions that he could send him on and do stuff with. It could be first. The whole tone of the movie is very much Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
In an airport, everything is kind of the same thing, just with more martial arts stuff.
Terrorists attacking an airport.
And the other thing I appreciate about these is their vibe is very much like the 80s, 90s action flicks. They're not like the current stylized. It's like I can see Chuck Norris starring in this movie. I can see a Stallone starring in this movie, or Bruce Willis did star in this movie.
Because so it's just real, like real fighting and stuff, and
it's a movie that I would have loved back then, and I enjoy now.
There you go.
One More Shot is available now on the Netflix.
Check it.
Be one of those people that are making it.
And the girl on the poster, for those of you who
I did not like very much.
But she is the funny girl from the Pitch Perfect movies. So
I don't know who that is, but okay.
You may care. Okay.
No, she wasn't funny in this movie.
No, she wasn't funny in this movie. All right.
I think that speaking of which, the first movie, I think I got annoyed because I get annoyed that Ryan Phillippe does not get a chance to showcase. The man is a black belt in Taekwondo.
Ryan Phillippe.
And I've yet to get to watch him Taekwondo anybody's ass.
Well, let's send him a note.
Like, he was up for Anakin Skywalker. He didn't get it. He was supposed to be in the running for Captain America, but he's too short for that. And so I've yet to get to see him karate chop. And I finally get to see him in a movie with Scott Adkins, and he still don't karate chop nobody.
I love Ryan Phillippe. I don't think he gets enough. Yeah, he was good in that other series, that mystery series about the person where they thought he was the killer or whatever.
You mean the one he's in like 2 episodes of?
No, that was a different show. I'm saying the show he was in.
He was in that show. Oh, I'm talking about. That's why I said he was in it.
Okay, we'll talk later. I might be thinking about a different show.
The show I'm thinking about is the whatever Falls or whatever.
No.
The one with the ladies or the detectives or whatever in the police chief.
There was a different one.
Oh, because he died in like the first 2 episodes or something of that show.
Well, spoiler.
With a serial killer.
Spoiler
years
alert.
ago.
Okay.
You don't know when I get over it.
No, it was a different show.
Oh, no, I didn't want to.
No, hold up. It doesn't matter. I'll come back.
What is that dang show that I'm thinking about now?
Big Sky.
Big Sky, yes. It was like they advertised that he was to be the star of that show, and then he died in like the 2nd episode.
Yeah.
Like, what? But that's called smart.
That's the way to do
TV
it.
because they smack you in the head and trick you. And it either works and you stay for it because you can't believe they did it, and it creates a tone of nobody's safe, even though everybody else is safe after that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, moving on.
Check out One More Shot. What else we got? Is it time for the big one?
It's time for the big one.
All right.
Go for the big one.
With the latest movie coming out in the Planet of the Apes franchise, which we kind of thought was done.
Yeah.
Because they kind of ended it.
They kind of ended on the last one.
We are clearly always up for more Planet of the Apes, but I also get worried when you kind of wrap up a story. Is it just money grab? Do they have something to say? Is it the only thing is just going to be rehashing more crap and not really work? But us being us, we decided to go and do our normal marathon. If you don't know, there's 9 previous movies, an animated series, and a live-action TV series for Planet of the Apes.
That TV show is kind of...
That TV show's fun. I mean, it's cheese. The animated series is cheese,
too. Excuse me. I started watching
the animated series cracks me up because I was telling you that it takes... So they made the animated series after the original 5 movies were done.
All right.
And the guy that made it only had seen the first 2 movies. So his basis was just let's focus on Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Even though there had been 5 movies, he only saw 2.
Yeah, he only watched the first 2. Which a lot of people do those kind of things.
Okay.
So like I'm not interested. He might have hated the second one, and that's why. I don't know.
Well,
but
we'll talk about it.
This is just what I've read too. I don't know if that's facts, but he a lot of the storylines and stuff are connected to Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Because Nova's in it, and I think there's even an old man in it who is actually Bert, which is the guy in the second movie. But what cracks me up, and I didn't get to tell you last night as I was finishing one, because I'd never seen them all the way through, and I picked up a copy. I've been watching it. Of all the Planet of the Apes things that have ever been made, the animated series gives them more technologically advanced lives. All the way to the point where there's this whole thing where they're talking about blue eyes and the human that can speak is going to bring down ape culture, blah, blah, blah. And a news broadcast where there's an ape complete with a little mustache. This is Tucker, whatever his name, and he's doing a news broadcast on TV.
They didn't have TV.
And they're driving around with Jeeps with sirens on them. And so they've been like full on life. It's kind of like the end of the Tim Burton one.
I was going to say he jumped into
kind of a
Marky Mark one.
Yes, it was very much that world where they were like the normal apes.
Then Tim Burton took it from there.
So that would have been the case. So anyway, so we jump back in and we watch the 5 originals.
Let's go there.
Which are Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape from Planet of the Apes,
yes,
Conquest of Planet of the Apes, and Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Correct.
And they're all fantastic.
Okay.
I actually love all 5 of those movies.
There's some problems with some.
Are there though?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about those right now?
Sure, why not? What are your problems? I want to hear your problems. I don't think we've ever discussed your problems.
I like the first one.
Even though in the poster there for the Battle of the Planet of the Apes, that looks like you.
Wow.
Oh.
So I like the first one with
Pervy Huston.
Yeah, Charlton Heston.
Can I say he is a pervy man in that movie? I'm not saying Charlton Heston. Charlton Heston I think was just an asshole, but in that movie, I've seen the movie a billion times, and for some reason it hit me different this time. And I'm like, he's such an asshole, and he's a perv, and and then we find out between the first two, Nova's a hoe, and it's just like a whole lot of things are happening.
I think it's interesting that you just realized this.
I don't think I watched it that deep previously. I don't think it was a Me Too thing, acknowledgement. I think it was just, I just watched it, had a good time, and I'm like, oh, he what an ass, and moved on.
No, because I caught it one of the early viewings when they talk about the lady astronaut that died.
Yeah.
And it was very sexist and dismissive. Like this lady, like, too bad, oh well.
She could have at least she went that way.
Yeah. So I caught it the first time.
But see, and you saying that, I forgot there was a female astronaut already.
Yeah.
Because she's such a throwaway character that's just a corpse. We don't really spend any time with her.
But he treated her that way.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of one of his compatriots.
He was and I know it's of the time too. The movie's made in the 60s.
It was 68.
And so it's of the time of, not in a good way, of the way women are kind of treated. But I think that there's one line that really just hit me this time.
Yeah.
And it's when Zaius, I believe it is saying, I didn't realize humans could be monogamous. And he's like, well, here you don't really have a choice. Like, we're not. But, and him taking Nova, they give her Nova, and a normal man will be like, I'm not taking her as a slave, and he's like, he escaped. Nova wasn't helping him. He goes, you're coming with me. You're my woman now, kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway, I still love the movie.
Anyways, I enjoy the movie. And I feel like at that time in 68, just getting there and the apes are talking and you're in this topsy-turvy world. That music, by the way, the score for that movie.
So bad.
No, but
it's like, excellent, but it's so horrible. I feel like it's got this board. They're going,
I feel like he was playing that thing. What's that thing called? I don't know what it's called.
I forgot.
I feel like that's what he's playing. But I'm telling you, the score
I think I played a lot of this music with my grandma's organ she used to have.
That score for that movie is just so striking that I can imagine the first crowd to see that in the theater, like, what the heck is going on? And then the apes start talking, and you're like, what?
I will never forget, and I know I've said this. I may even said it last week. I'll never forget my favorite moment of that 70s show. And it talks about you talking. They're talking about Star Wars coming out. And that's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. And Ashton Kutcher's Kelso's character says, it'll never be better than Planet of the Apes because those apes could act.
But I'm just saying, for the time period, the costuming, the makeup, and the thing of the apes was so good. It's so compelling.
I think outside, and this is my opinion, I think the visual nature of the apes, looking at it now, they're The makeup's amazing for especially for the
Yeah, for
time
that
period.
time period.
The design
Yeah.
is good, but they don't really have a full on ape vibe.
Yeah.
If you really look at them, but I probably the actors. I love the way they look.
Yes.
It's iconic. To me, the reason this franchise works, at least the original 5 movies, really settles on Kim Hunter and Roddy McDowall.
Yeah.
Being
Absolutely.
Zira and
Cornelius.
I think, especially Roddy McDowall, because he's kind of the C-3PO of this franchise, who outside of the animated series and one of the films, I believe, I think that's right. I think he missed one movie, and I know he's not in the animated series, but he is the live-action series. Like he's that staple character that's there, and I think it was, I think it's Battle for the Planet of the Apes. I don't think it's Roddy McDowall. I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
We'll find out.
But I think he's the reason, the kind of the glue.
Yeah.
The wreck, because even though when he shifts from playing Cornelius to Caesar, that's that familiarity of him, and I can't imagine that his body didn't go through some sort of suffering from years of having his hand here and crunched over, and or he was.
And I'm just saying the ability for them to emit emotion through a mask that was kind of sturdy.
Yeah.
But you could see the eyes, and you saw every time Zira would be like, she'd do her little twitchy thing, and even Dr. Zayas, because he's such a compelling character. I mean, I love me some Dr. Zayas.
He's an asshole.
I got my pen on. But, for them to be able to convey emotion through these masks was just so interesting. But then you get to the end of Planet of the Apes, and Taylor realizes, like, OMG, I was already here the whole time.
And it gives Charlton Heston another chance to overact.
Yes, to overact.
Charlton Heston is not a good actor. I'm sorry.
You did it. I
don't know what got him a career.
Oh, Lord.
I'm not saying, again, I haven't watched a lot of Charlton Heston movies, so before you start saying, well, you should see this, I get it. There's probably stuff out there. I have the same opinion of Jimmy Stewart, so don't get me started.
Yeah.
But
Roddy McDowall was the best. Yes.
In Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston is not good. Across the board, he's not a great actor. But again, part of the charm, I think, is his overacting in the bad, like, you did it, or they did it, you killed us all. And I'm like, shut up, dude. That's very much the Star Wars Darth Vader sequence, and but more equivalent to the no.
So basically, we find out nuclear war. There you go. So then we get to beneath the Planet of the Apes. The story continues.
And I think that was really trying to play up the threat of nuclear stuff at that time.
For sure, because we're in the 70s. This was 1970.
But I also think they were trying to just give a new threat or say there's something else out there, not just the apes, to try to show like, okay, because it would make no sense if no other humans existed other than the muted stupid ones. Mm-hmm. There had to be at least one or two that were maybe smart,
So between 1968 and 1970, the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons treaty was going around, where they were getting all the countries to sign to give up nuclear arms and all this stuff. So it is heavily influenced by that. My problem with Beneath the Planet of the Apes is the stupid bomb thing.
But see, to me, that makes total sense.
Oh, hell, the mighty bomb.
That's the one thing about that movie that really made sense. That makes sense to me. They're stupid powers. But
that suddenly they mutated because of nuclear or whatever, that they can be like.
But I guess, if you want to get technical and you get, it's like radioactive spotter mentality.
I guess so.
But the bomb is the only thing that made sense to me on that aspect, because you have these people knowing that this bomb could turn everything back. This could fix everything because it also destroyed everything. And so why not worship? It's like we worship those kind of things now. The difference is they're just weird, veiny people with rubber masks that were body. And did you notice there's the one African-American gentleman? He looks very much like McDonald in the later ones. It's not back there, but he looks like the same guy.
Interesting. Well, they had to throw one black person in there for whatever.
Fun fact, the guy that's McDonald's brother, also McDonald in Battle for the Planet of the Apes,
from Conquest,
is the voice of, I believe, Cornelius in the animated series.
Aw, okay, we'll get there. That's what it is. So in part 2, Beneath, is when Brent and his friend
shows up,
come to find Taylor.
This was also a smart move of what I thought too, of rehashing the same story, by bringing another person in. But hey,
But how likely is it that you would go through the same curve in time
well, I
to end
think
up
he
in the
was
same
looking
space?
for him now.
I know,
That's
but
the thing
how
is-
likely is it that you would go through the same woo to get
Well,
you there?
yeah, but no telling how long he'd been gone, and then the technology, and they were like, we got to find him.
I guess. So we'll just say, yeah. He gets
Again, Hulk pants discussion. We're talking about a movie with a bunch of apes talking
It's
and running
possible.
around, and you're worried about how he did through the time frame, but you're not worried about how they got through the time frame in the first one.
there. No, it was an accident.
Okay, so now they
The
figured
same
out.
accident happens twice, so
The
it's not
second
an
one,
accident.
the second one, I don't think was an accident. I think he came on purpose.
I guess. But anyways, this is where you find out Nova's a hoe.
No,
now
we didn't find out. We already knew, but yes,
She
there was
runs
more.
off with Brent.
Yeah.
And then Brent encounters the telepathic mutant people living underground. Ooh, and
Which
they
all
decide
leads
they're
to the-
gonna
But see,
release
this
the bomb.
also gives a chance to give them a new ship,
yes.
so that we lead into Escape.
So now we're into Escape. They
Cornelia,
jump into the
Zira,
astronaut
and
suits.
what's the other doctor's name? I forgot.
Doctor, hold on.
He dies
He
fast.
was the smartest of all of us, is what she tells
He was
us.
basically the cannon fodder, so they could kill
Escape.
somebody. Anyway, we get that one, which is what I like to refer to as the Star Trek 4 of the Planet Apes movies. The Whales. This is them coming back, which was an interesting twist. It used to be my favorite movie of the entire franchise when I was younger, and I think because seeing the apes walk around the people just seemed weirder.
Yeah, it was weird, but it was fun.
It
was
is.
good times.
And you get to meet Ricardo Montalban. So, and this is where some of the discussion starts of the time loop.
Yes,
Which we've had a discussion for years about. This movie basically makes all the rest of it happen, and it does. But if you really pay attention to the next stories, it is the cause, but because of different events happening, it changed the course of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't go back to the beginning like it was. We go into a different place of the same time.
Correct. Same but different, because remember, time isn't necessarily linear. I think time is a loop.
Yeah. So after the events of there's Beneath, we're not going to keep going into all these movies because we could talk about them all day long.
And Dr. Milo.
Yes, Milo. After the events, that one we lead. Now we get to follow the baby grown up, which they call Milo. Remember, they named the baby after him at first. And that's one of the bloopers in the movie they never really discuss. I don't know if you ever caught that.
No.
They name him baby Milo in Escape.
Mm.
Then when you first meet him in Conquest, he's already Caesar.
He renamed him.
Well, that's pretty much the assumption was he named him a Caesar to hide the Milo fact from people looking for him.
Yeah.
But it's never discussed.
But then again, he gets to pick his name. But if you know, he's
calling him Caesar before that.
I know, but he picks the
same name.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's one of those loophole things that nobody ever discusses. This. He gets a name in Escape, but his name is not the same name in the next movie, and there's no discussion of why. But why did you change my name, Father?
Well, you just go. Well, but we go with the idea because there was the whole switch anyway.
Oh, I get that.
So
but it was already switched. He knew about the switch, and he knew it was happening. So I just think there should have been
more connection.
That's one of those dialogues I think they should have had. Is when he's like, "You can be quiet." He's like, "Is that why you changed my name, Father?"
Tell Ricardo
something like that. You know, Ricardo Montalban's dead.
I know that.
But something to that extent of that could have been an easy line to fix. Of when he's telling him at the beginning, and they arrived at the city, and he's like, "You can't act. You know, you have to act more like these other ones. And you know, once you get caught, and he could have just said, "Is that why you changed my name, Father?"
Yeah.
You know, yes, we're trying to keep you hidden. And then it would have moved on and it would have had a whole explanation. But instead, they just ignored it.
Okay, so let me back up. The best part of Planet of Escape was it's very 70s, and I loved it. It's so 70s.
Can I just tell you, it still creeps me out and bothers me this day when she shows up in that flower dress.
And she's like...
And she's drinking her
grape juice plus.
Yes, grape juice plus. And then when she does the things like, I hate that.
She's so cute. Okay, we get to Conquest.
And I love, my favorite thing is when Cornelius dies, when he starts going, the makeup's puffing out. I was like, oh my God, that creeped me out when I was
I don't even know why he chose to do that, but we went with it.
I think it was a whole shock trying to breathe, and I think it was maybe unintentional that the makeup puffed.
It was awesome, though.
It is. It's a great sequence.
Great. Okay, then we get to Conquest.
Conquest, I believe, after rewatching it, might be my favorite of the original. I think
it's my favorite too.
But because of the different era of the apes, but also dealing with the ideas of the slavery and the uprising, and I think there's little things that my mustache has attacked me. And I love Caesar's speech at the end.
Yes.
while looking directly at the McDonald, the African
And he
American
tells him that, to me, is the most impactful part of this. He's like, you of all people should understand this.
Yeah.
You know, understanding it. But it is so compelling and impactful because of the undertones of slavery. But it's interesting because if you remember to the very beginning when Dr. Zayas is telling us the histories of the people or whoever, and we get through the story of how it all happened, and Cornelius or whoever ends up telling us the full story, that it was because the ape stood up and said no.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, it wasn't necessarily Cornelius, it was Lisa, who
Yeah.
couldn't even speak. But that was her first word.
It is a little annoying, but I also think maybe by design, because you're watching that movie, you're constantly hearing somebody go, no, no, home, no, no, no. And you're like, stop, okay, get some other dialogue. But then you kind of get you start feeling like them.
Yeah.
That's all we hear.
Lisa's like, no. So sweet.
So,
then we get to battle.
Battle almost feels to me, that's been my least favorite. I like the movie as a whole.
But it wraps up.
It wraps up the current idea and takes us back. Yeah. But I believe Battle also felt forced. It's the only one in this franchise that feels like we just got to make another one.
Yeah.
You know.
And in reading about it, it was, but they were like, man, should we do it? Not really. Nobody really wanted to.
Budgeting at that point.
Nobody really wanted to, but I think Roddy McDowell kind of did, just to kind of wrap it up.
Well, I think what it does is
story.
Because even up to that point, we're still on the same trajectory of getting back to the beginning, and I think Battle changes everything. It kind of reinvigorates at least the time period. Like something else could still happen eventually that takes us back to that other one. But anyway,
because you see in Battle where it ends that Cornelius's wish is that everyone, apes and humans, live together in peace.
Yeah.
Right. So then we get to Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. So and then Tim Burton decided to remake, but not remake, reimagine. And I like this movie. I've always liked this movie. I don't know why it gets such a bad rap.
The makeup in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, because it's actors in makeup.
Yeah.
And the way they're moving, and the main guy just moving like this, is just so good. Love this makeup thing.
And I don't know, this movie gets such a bad rap from haters. I don't get it. I love this when it came out. I still like it to this day. Is there some stuff I don't like? Yes. I don't like that Helena Bonham Carter's character looks so much like Michael Jackson instead of a regular ape. She does. If you look at her, it looks like I'm watching Michael Jackson. She's the only makeup I didn't like. I loved Tim Roth stayed. I thought he was excellent. Michael Clark Duncan, I thought was excellent.
So
the always great Paul Giamatti was most excellent.
Fun.
You know, it takes a little getting used to the change up where the humans aren't stupid, you know,
and they don't even mention anything about it.
They don't need to. It's a reimagining of the same idea. It's not a remake. It was never meant to be the same movie. Mark Wahlberg's hit and miss. He's fine for the movie, but you know, at one point there was a discussion of doing this movie, and I think it was before Burton. That Schwarzenegger is supposed to be the human character. And so there's been ideas for a long time.
Too big to...
I don't know. I could see him taking on a gorilla and be like Predator.
I know, that's why I think
it'd be cool. Anyway, I enjoyed this movie, and I was obsessed with some of how they pulled off some of the stuff. Like, I don't know if you ever watched some of the behind the scenes.
It was wire work, wasn't it?
Well, there was wire work, but like when you see the apes and they're running really fast.
Yeah, were they on those?
They had these tumble track things that were like motorized tracks that were pulled by cars or horses.
Yeah.
So while they're running on them, they're pulling them past people to make them look like they're running faster.
Yeah, and they use that technology later on in different movies. But it was really cool.
It was cool. I like this movie. But sadly, it was a standalone.
I like it too. Thought it was cool. I enjoyed the ending. Because he never gets out of his time loop.
No, and it was intended to do a sequel, but this one didn't do as well at the box office, so it kind of died. And so we thought Planet of the Apes was forever over. Until
contraire.
Now I know you were very against this movie when it came out.
Against this because I was like, no, we have all the Planet of the Apes. It's done. I don't need this.
And when Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out, you also had a problem with they were going in a direction of a real ape.
Yeah, it was freaking me out, guys. I'm going to be honest. It freaked me out.
To me, it's creepy. It's terrifying. And I think it's perfectly what it needed for this franchise to work. Because back then, the makeup and everything was startling for the time period. It was something different. you can't show up and make a Planet of the Apes movie like that now. People would be like,
oh, but it's so nice.
but I think what makes his new franchise work
It's so real.
is it's so real that it's terrified that it could happen.
Yes.
And it
is
makes
terrifying.
it creepier.
And it could happen.
And it wouldn't have worked if the technology wasn't so amazing to create this. So Rise of the Planet of the Apes, for those of you that either haven't seen it or don't connect it, it's essentially a remake of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
So the first two are both kind of that. I kind of look at all three of these, Rise, Dawn, and War, it's kind of remakes of Conquest and Battle.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of both those stories in various ways encapsulated together.
And then this last one is more like the last one.
It shifts from like battle leading into Planet of the Apes kind of thing.
First one, maybe.
Yeah. So what is your thought on this trilogy? Which again,
watching
when this was over, we thought this trilogy was it.
Yeah, because it ends fine. Perfect ending. So with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I was absolutely against it. Then I saw Malfoy being mean to animals, and I was absolutely against that. I was like, I'm not watching this crap. But then you go and you watch it, and
you get mad because you liked it.
And
I want to say I remember us leaving, and you were upset, because you go, I'm mad. I'm like, why are you mad? Because I liked it, and you didn't want to like it.
Andy Serkis playing Caesar is so compelling.
Yeah.
And you see his little eyes, and you know it's him. Like, you see this man's face, and it gets better as you go along. But it's so compelling, and James Franco was actually really good. And I think in my mind, I associate James Franco with dumb things, like dumb movies, funny things.
Done predominantly dumb things.
Y'all, this was so just moving and compelling. And at the end, where he tells him, he grabs him, and he does the thing, and he's like, Caesar home. And he's like, okay, see, like, he's surprised and astonished and startled, but at the same time you see kind of the heartbreak and the acceptance from James Franco just in his eyeballs. He's like, yes, Caesar, go home. He gets it. It's so sad and heartbreaking.
One of the things that I love about these first three, even as it grows, is their language never was straight out, hi, I'm Caesar.
No.
There was that growth of learning. Like in the new movie, they have a lot more dialect talking because now it's been decades and decades and decades, and you get to deal with that.
But still, it's not perfect.
And in the first movie, they didn't feel the need to make another talking animal. They went into the sign language, which is still very prominent up to this day.
And I like that
and
too.
You get they're following him because they all know he's different. Like one of my favorite scenes is when they're walking through the zoo with him. I think it's in the first one.
Yeah.
And all the apes just stop and they're looking at him because they can sense something's different about this guy.
It's really good. It is compelling. And so then we find out in Rise that the R20 whatever virus 12
because there's an after credit
is the one that makes the apes smarter, but then it starts making all the humans sick.
Yeah, but we don't know it's dehumanizing. It's just making them sick.
It's making them sick.
We don't find that out almost a war.
Yeah, so
it
made them sick. The virus spreads around the world. So then we feel like COVID things happening.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Dawn really just plays into it's kind of a filler movie, and it kind of just plays into we've separated. The apes are here, the humans are here, leave each other alone.
Stay away from us.
So that they don't. And so essentially a fight breaks out, which leads into a war because of other stupid behaviors on both parts. Some apes that make bad decisions and humans that make some bad decisions lead into an actual war that's coming.
Yeah. The thing I liked most about this was Kerry Russell and the main guy, Jason Clarke. They are so sweet together. And, at one point, Caesar's like, you remind me of somebody. He's like, you're good man.
He's a good man.
Good man.
Like you,
Yeah.
Great
so
scene.
I was like, oh, that's so sweet and compelling. And then they find out too that Caesar had a home.
Yeah.
He had a human family.
What's funny is I saw an interview or an article one time that I guess they mentioned to James Franco about his appearance in Dawn. Through the videotape, he goes, I didn't even know I was in that movie. He goes, I think someone owes me a check.
His pictures and videos.
Yeah, he didn't even know they used the footage.
And the other thing that I thought was so compelling was Caesar had really tried to separate the humans and the apes.
He just wanted peace to be left alone.
But to the point that his own son didn't even know his story.
Yeah.
He didn't even know that James Franco was his human dad.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, I'm going to go a little deep on you. When you have generational trauma, you do try to spare your children, but to the point that they don't even understand the difficulty that you had in life to get where you're at, when they need to know that history.
Yeah.
So, for example, it took a while for me to talk to my mom to understand her brush with racism and segregation, because you wouldn't think that somebody in their 70s or whatever had it. But my grandmother would be more open, and she would tell me the stories of, like, when you had the blacks only and the whites only, they had to use the blacks only because they were not white. Yeah. Or they were migrant farmers, or go back to your country, you don't speak this language. But even with my mom, who's not old, I don't think, I mean, yeah, she's in her 70s, but being told, you can't be friends with this girl because you're Mexican and she's white, you can't come here anymore. I mean, so, and it's that thing, you've got to tell your kids these stories, not because you're trying to create issues or whatever, but so they understand who you are as a person. And I feel like Caesar did not do that until finally we get to the end, and finally his kid realizes like who he is and he understands him more. And I just thought that was so sweet. It was a father bonding moment.
And I also found it interesting leading into the final one of the trilogy, was that like they'll know there's a war coming that they didn't have anything to do with, they didn't want, and then somebody else starts it. And
yes.
So then
and Caesar's like, I know that somebody else started the war. I don't want it, but now I got to fight. And that gets us to war.
I believe in the Dawn, the one that ends with saying that war is coming.
War is coming. He's like, I don't want to fight, but he knows he has to.
Like the war's already here and y'all have to leave. And those humans kind of fade into the blackness of the doorway, which I thought was a cool shot.
Yes.
He looks back and they're gone, and he realizes we're alone again. And but
the war's here now.
War is one of those. I think the entire aspect of the war is it's not only setting the loss and the betrayal and the anger and the hatred towards the humans, but also it's kind of a redemption moment for Caesar, because he's literally beaten and at his worst loss at this movie, because he loses his family, he does all this stuff, and he's prisoner, he doesn't care anymore, he's so obsessed with vengeance and this and that, but the movie serves kind of a redemption arc for Caesar to become who we believe him to be, but also
he has to go to a dark place to get there.
But we also are seeing the de-evolution of the humans.
Yes,
because you're finding out that crap, that's
version 13 of the virus actually is what caused them to not be able to speak.
Yeah,
and then, like you said, it actually turns them a little bit savage.
Yeah,
and just
so we're getting to more of that, and I think also, can I just say, kind of flipped, I think it's from the last two. I also found it clever that they named his woman Cornelia, to kind of in honor of Cornelius, and then I think their kid was Cornelius.
The kid was Cornelius.
Yeah, the little one, right?
Sure.
Not the older son, the baby.
The baby.
So they kind of connected it without connecting it. There's nice. A lot of nods to this one. These movies are not meant to be in the same universe as the other Planet of the Apes. It's its own story to tell. But I like that they keep making nods to the originals.
Like there's another guy that they call Blue Eyes, like it keeps like these things keep coming up that you're like, oh.
Like nice. in War, we even get to meet a character that becomes Nova.
Correct.
Because they find that piece of the car of a Chevy Nova. Like, we'll call it Nova. And then I'm like, oh, that's Nova. And then with the new movie, there's a character that's similar, but it's not even a spoiler because they make a throwaway line of
all
she's Nova, and then he's like, we call all of them Nova. We don't know why.
But that's what Caesar.
And you're like, oh, and now we can okay, now we have an entire backstory of why her name is Nova.
I think
it's such a simple but stupid.
It's silly, but
it's simple.
The compelling thing in the War, Planet of the Apes. Again, I was like, I'm not gonna like this. I'm tired of these new movies. And then I'm over here like crying over Caesar. I'm like, is he gonna make it? But it's because he becomes so self-aware that he's like, I am no better than Koba was. I'm just as angry and just as vengeful, but he realizes he has to try to do what's right for all his people. He was trying, it didn't go right, so he's got to try again.
I'm gonna tell you that orangutan in this first trilogy, he's a fantastic character. Those little tiny ass eyes creep me the hell out.
No, but he's a
fantastic character, and I loved him. And there's nothing. The only thing that cracks me up is watching the big gorillas and the orangutans on the horses
Yeah.
because they're so massive. And
This
these
guy's
little,
like, those poor horses.
like you're gonna have to get a Clydesdale, man, because you're trying to ride a little tiny ass horse. Anyway, so we got all these movies. So the War of the Planet of the Apes ended on a definitive ending.
Yeah.
For the character arc,
They
not for the world, but for the Caesar's character
arc. They make
arc.
it to a new home.
And
Caesar's like, I made it.
We're good.
Here we go.
And so we knew the new movie was set years later.
Yes, it tells us decades
what
later.
I was impressed and surprised by is it jumps right into the end of this previous movie to give you a little closure.
Yes, I needed it.
And then it jumps, as it says, decades later.
Decades.
Which I've been reading that it's supposedly like 300 years later, but
okay.
Either way,
into the future.
It doesn't give you a definite time frame in the movie. It just says many decades later. And we're now seeing the world as it would have probably be seen in the original Planet of the Apes, meaning not desert land and stuff like that, but I mean a land that is now not the Earth we knew.
Correct.
The buildings are grown up on trees. It's almost all forage in this section of the world. These apes, there's entire ape cultures living in little buildings they've built and having fishing and doing all these different things, and so we've created this now literal Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Stop reading timelines.
I'm reading the timeline.
So in the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, we're introduced to a whole new set of characters. The smart thing about this is, without having to continue the last one, they've now been able to put their own stamp on it and say, okay, here's a new set of characters.
Yeah.
Caesar is still very much a part of the story because it's the history of him being the first and the connection. So you have the people that follow Caesar. Then you have characters that are, I guess, using like the idea of the Roman where all leaders were Caesar, where they have this guy Proximus Caesar who's taken the name as the leader.
He's creepy, man, I just tell you.
And so
that guy is good.
So
creeping me out.
It's another case of this character Noah, who is from an ape village, and he goes on a journey, basically discovers new places, and it's another case of vengeance, but also finding himself and all that kind of stuff. And
I found it very interesting that now we have different tribes or colonies of apes, different ape, like gorillas here and chimpanzees there. And they like, these people are like, they train eagles and they're fishermen, like who knew? And there's others that do others. So I'm like, this is really interesting.
They've literally created this world
it's
now.
It's a whole world.
Which I think what's cool is with these new movies, I believe I read that they had a plan for like 9 of them.
Wow.
I don't know if that means 9 more or what, but now that we've established that there's these different factions and cultures, they could keep making them. They could do a trilogy for this character and then jump to another group, and we could have these Planet of the Apes movies, and I'm all for it. I love this new movie.
It was really good. I didn't know what to expect because it was like we kind of finished it with the other one, but yeah, it's really good. I enjoyed it. And this guy, the main guy, so sweet.
As the Noah character?
Yeah, the Noah guy, whoever plays him, so good.
The thing I think the most about this one is outside of the original Planet of the Apes, this probably had the least amount of humans.
Mm-hmm. Which you like.
I like because I'm here for the apes. I don't care about the humans, and I don't want. And my problem is anytime you get a movie like the Transformers or Planet of the Apes or things like this, they always feel the need to infuse humans into the story because that's the only way we can connect with it. Mm-hmm. And I get it, but the technology is good enough now that if you can't make a Planet of the Apes movie in this context, and you still need the humans for people to buy into it, then it's not going to work anymore.
Yeah, you've done something wrong.
So we can follow this whole movie, and we never would have needed to see a human, and it would have still worked.
Yeah.
Like you buy into these apes talking and living and surviving and their cultures and their marriages and their children and everything here. You buy into this society.
It's a new society, a new world, and it's interesting that because so many generations have passed. And they're using oral history. It's like from one person to another. Some of the facts are fuzzy, right? But like he said, we don't know why we do this. It's just what we heard Caesar did. So the original Caesar. So it's just interesting and compelling to follow their story. And yeah, we don't need the humans. Like, whatever humans. And because this guy and then the other one, Koro, is that guy?
That's Rocca.
Oh, Rocca. Is that Rocca? Oh my gosh, I don't know everybody's names.
I thought it was Rocca.
What does he play? Please hold. Rocka.
Is it
It's
Rocco?
Rocka.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because he's the guy that tells
is
you
the
that's in.
cutest.
That's the guy that was the bad guy one.
Oh, he was freaking me out.
Duran, he's excellent.
But the Rocco,
Rocca.
he is the cutest, sweetest, kindest.
I
little
swore that was
eyes.
Ron Perlman at first,
Oh, really?
but
I
he's the best.
He is the best because he I can see his line of people will become the knowledge givers.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because he's trying to keep the history. He saved books. He doesn't know how to read all these things, but he saved them because he understands that they're important for future generations.
But he has a couple lines where he just will show something
Oh
like
my
important.
gosh, important.
And his faces were some of the
so
best.
Good. I was gonna cry about.
And maybe it's
him.
those little tiny eyes again because and he looks at because of that moment where he like looks at somebody. He's like,
yeah, but you know, and he's telling what's this
Noah.
kid's name, Noah, that it's the name Noah, by the way, interesting choice of names.
Right.
Because we're dealing with some water later
I know.
and escaping.
I caught
was
that
like,
too.
did you catch? Like, why are we using a biblical name? But it's interesting because he tells him the importance of having compassion. That yes, I understand apes are over here and there might be a few humans over there, but why can we not live together? Because that was Caesar's dream.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, so maybe you're not going to live with humans, but we should try to show some compassion and understanding.
Yeah.
You know, and I just thought it was so.
There's a lot of metaphors in this
today.
franchise about race and status
yeah,
and cultures. And
absolutely.
All defined by, ironically enough, the life form that many believe we evolved from. You know, no matter what you want to argue that point, the connection of the two is undeniable because apes do in fact have their own cultures and personalities,
and they can learn sign language.
Yeah, and the fact they can communicate,
and
the fact that they have thumbs, and that they can, you know, they mate and they you know seem to stay with a mate, and it's just there's a lot of connections there that whether it's true or not true, that it makes everything way more connected and believable. And this movie, the movie has plenty of action, has beautiful landscapes. I really had a blast. But this one also probably takes the most deep dives into familiarity of the original film.
Yeah.
Whether it be the in the trailer it shows the cornfield or the high grass sequence.
Yes.
This fool was over here.
Oh my gosh, you should have seen me through this whole movie. For someone who's like, I don't like these new movies, I'm over here.
She loves these new movies. Don't let her tell you anything.
I am now. So yeah, they're doing that scene with the grass. I'm like, they better do the stick.
She starts doing this, and then it cuts, but it cuts to an arrow, and you can just barely see him over there on the edge doing it. But there's that. There's
some. You hear some of the original score in this.
Yeah, there's a moment where you get into the, and that's actually a section of the film where it starts feeling more like Planet of the Apes, the original, and the music starts like they're telling you, okay, you're transitioning from the regular this new trilogy world.
We're getting more into what
some of the other
original.
Stuff, yeah.
And some of the look and feel a little bit, and you can understand how they start building the houses and societies and all that. Like you can see it a little bit. And
they could still go back because they've created these little factions. They could still go back and create a similar looking town.
Yeah, the same time
to
period.
The original of the desert looking thing, and be the way it looked in the original without it making like, okay, now it doesn't make sense. This is just the area we happen to be at. Because when we get to that second half of the film, you're in like the beach area. There's a lot of beach shots. It looks like the original last half.
Yeah, it looks like we're in, I don't know if we're New York or not, but it's a big city. They go through a stadium.
I think that's,
so
I don't remember.
I'm going to assume, but you do see later in the end, no spoilers, that there is more out there.
Yeah,
okay?
and that's an interesting.
So I was like,
she didn't really like the way it ended.
I didn't care for that.
But I love it because it starts making, and they may not do anything with it, but it is creating the connectivity and even a bigger nod to the original film.
Yeah.
I thought that was a smart way of doing two different things. Is one, you're setting up more complications.
Yes,
you're setting up the possibility that, hey, maybe we'll remake another variation of the original film, part of this storyline, or we won't at all, but it can still, you say, uh-oh, maybe he landed somewhere else that had nothing to do with this group, you know, and maybe it is in the same world and we don't know. And that group just had their own Caesar and Cornelius, and
Yeah, we don't know what loop we're in.
there's a lot of options you can go with. But I think of this new one as my favorite of the entire four of the new storyline, just because again I'm spending almost all my time with the apes. I felt like it's established. I thought aesthetically it looked awesome.
It's beautiful.
I liked the story. I liked all the characters.
And I feel like this does give us another opportunity to re-examine social classes, race relations, because you have Proximus Caesar who declares himself better than all the others, so you need to serve me within his own people, right? But then you have Noah dealing with this one human girl that you see in the trailer, and he's like, okay, if what all I'm hearing and piecing together, because he's just trying to figure out the history, if what I'm hearing is true, and humans used to be dominant, now apes are, why do you want that again? If you already had it all, when is enough enough?
And you lost it, so it makes you think you deserve it.
And so that's, it's one of those things, like, when is being dominant and having enough? That's he's like, when is it going to be enough?
Well, that's the problem, is when you have that and you lose it, you want it back. No matter what the world tells you.
Yeah, so he's like, I just want to live in peace. I want you to go away and never come back.
The movie did well enough that I think we'll get another entry. So it'll be interesting
good
to see where it goes. And
really
I loved it. I can't wait to dive back in. And like I said, I'm glad I got to watch most of the animated series. I haven't finished yet, but it's really bad but really good all at once. I'm just telling you, seeing them talk on the
Lord,
have to reach, seeing the news broadcast and just but they use the same kind of music and from the original. Did you hear it playing last night when I was watching?
I heard a bunch of stuff playing.
That's great.
Anyway,
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was #1 this weekend. Did pretty well, I believe. I think it made like 50, 60 million. I think it was still less than what the last ones have made. But we're also in a different time of films. Movies just aren't making what they used to make on a regular basis. There are some movies that come in and somehow still knock it out of the park. But either way, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is in theaters now. Hopefully you'll go check it out if you like the Planet of the Apes. This one you do need to kind of watch the first three. You don't have to watch all of them, but you should.
Yeah.
If you've never seen the original Planet of the Apes, how dare you?
Go watch all of these.
Yes, all of these. This is the Lawgiver.
It's the Lawgiver. It's where we get all our knowledge.
All right, what else we got?
All right, that's it over there.
All right. So this week on Blu-rays and giveaways and the DVDs and all the other good things, American Sniper is getting the 4K treatment. We're not doing giveaways yet.
I didn't.
Okay, sorry, it popped up on my thing.
Calm down.
Movie Once Upon a Time in the West with I believe James Robards and Charles Bronson. Henry Fonda is getting the 4K treatment or the Blu-ray treatment or something like that. I think part of the I don't remember if I think it's the Paramount Classics thing.
Oh, that thing that we were,
Killer Clowns from Outer Space is getting a 35th anniversary 4K release, which I'm very excited about because I love that movie. Dune Part 2 is coming out, which you still haven't got to see yet. I'm interested to see your thoughts after watching it because we had a similar opinion on the first one. I feel the second one is kind of like Maverick, which makes the movie a little bit better. And I actually enjoyed the second one quite a bit more. And then Dracula 2000 is getting some new release.
I was the only one that liked that movie.
And you still are. And Orphan is getting I believe a 4K release as well.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
All right. So coming out on the line or at the theater on Tuesday, this looks really interesting. Coming out on video, demand, and digital. It's a new documentary called Beyond the Tree Line. It is the story of the youngest person ever to hike the Appalachian Trail. It is a 4-year-old boy. He's going on the journey with his family.
Oh, I did that.
But at 4 years old, guys, he's hiking over here. So I'm not even trying to hike anywhere, and this little 4-year-old guy is doing it. You go, boy. Also on video, demand, and digital on Tuesday, a movie called Final Heat. It's these owners struggling at a gym, and they decide to bring in best athletes by hosting a competition for a huge cash prize called The Games.
They call it The Game.
They record everything kind of documentary style, and suddenly athletes start confessing their stuff while they're doing their little mini interviews, and things go crazy. Teams start fighting, and of course they threaten to destroy the gym and their entire livelihood.
Of course.
Then we jump straight to Friday, so there's not a lot happening. So Friday coming out at the theater is the new movie IF for Imaginary Friends.
It's called the If.
Well, I'm calling it the IF.
Because they say in the movie Ifs.
Oh, okay, the
Yeah.
Ifs then. It's Ryan Reynolds and a bunch of his friends, I guess. It's every famous person in the whole world doing a voice of these imaginary friend characters, if you want to check that out.
And it's written and directed by
I don't know.
John Krasinski.
Oh, that's cool.
He went from A Quiet Place to If.
Also coming out in theaters, The Strangers, Chapter 1. We will be talking about this. This is the prequel of how the strangers became the killers they are.
And it is part of a trilogy that's already been shot.
Nice.
And he's already been talking about releasing a 4-hour cut of all of them put together, just because he's like, I wonder who could comfortably sit through 4 hours of this intensity
We probably
of a horror and slasher.
As
Whatever.
long as there's a break to go get snacks.
I doubt it. It'd probably be one straightforward.
Also coming out to theaters, the movie called Back to Black. It is a biopic about Amy Winehouse. So I'm going to say maybe loosely based on her story. We don't know. But it's during the time of her Back to Black album. Also coming to Shudder, Night Watch, Demons Are Forever. Emma takes this job as a Night Watch security person. Patients start disappearing, and she confronts a potential serial killer. There we go. Coming to Netflix, Thelma the Unicorn. Oh, it's Thelma the pony. She wishes to become a unicorn, and then suddenly she's an international pop star. Don't know how that works with a unicorn. Coming out to video on demand and digital, a movie called End of the Rope. Based on the infamous true story, End of the Rope follows Sheriff Jacobson and state attorney Sam Taylor as they try to find out what happened to the Haven family. They get to the Haven farmland and they try to solve the murders, but they end up finding something much more dangerous. Coming out also on video demand and digital, Faceless After Dark. I can't handle this. It's this guy following the success as a star in a killer clown horror movie. This lady finds herself struggling to capitalize on the success. So she's suddenly held hostage by some other crazy killer clowns. And I can't deal anything with killer clowns. So there you go. Coming to Netflix, a movie called Power. It's a documentary about the American policing system. How it's grown in scope and scale over the past 100 years, and how now people just describe it as the need for more power. So that's going to be an interesting documentary for sure. That's kind of it happening out there in the world.
You mentioned Night Watch, which made me wonder, like, did they ever make the third one in the Night Watch Day Watch series? But they didn't.
Who knows?
Anyway.
All right. Over to
What
you,
do we
my
have
love.
giveaways? I don't think we have any brand new giveaways. Pretty much a lot of the same stuff. But there should be some new ones coming in the next week or so. But we do have some left of the Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2, which they just announced Part 3 coming up soon. The Beekeeper, of course. Baby Assassins 2. The Ocean's Trilogy. The Donnie Yen Doesn't Fight Anybody But a Mountain Range Polar Rescue. And, of course, The Departed. Like I said, there should be a couple of new ones popping up in the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that.
Okay. Well, that's it, friends. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week.
Unless we don't.
Unless we don't, but hopefully we do.